You just made it weird and awkward. You're just socially inept. Go sit down.
Hey, look, Rex.
Oh, it's a tube sock from Brian Lushbo.
And guess, do you recognize that tube sock?
Is it the tube sock of legend?
It is the one that was mailed to him.
Yes, it was Mooch from Brian Brushwood's garage.
Yes.
What is in here? Yeah.
And he returned it. So he proposed this idea that this tube sock gets passed around the tribe, mailed to random people, and every time you sign it.
Like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants?
Yeah, but with a tube sock. And it's all his whole rules. That he has rules to how you what you do with the sock.
Oh, good lord, this is
serious.
Yeah, it is. No, he put some thought into this.
So Brian was serious here.
And it's like formatted correctly.
Yeah.
It's got like a signature at the bottom. Okay. All right, we'll get to this. We'll get to this in the whiskey tribe. What whiskey do we have?
Okay, yeah, that's a much better idea. That's a discussion for the whiskey tribe. Dogmaster whiskey, Brian sent us. This is from Columbia, Missouri.
Dogmaster whiskey. I've never heard of it.
Okay, so here's the thing that makes me nervous about this one. It's just whiskey right now. There's no specific.
Most things we do are whiskey.
It's 40% corn, which means it can't be called bourbon.
Okay.
Right? 15% oat, 20% wheat, and 25% malted barley. So it could just be called a 4-grain whiskey.
Yeah.
Right? Now, this is one of their first aged spirits. It smells sort of like new make spirit. Actually, it smells like sourdough bread.
Yes, it was a sour note.
Fresh sourdough bread.
I had this moment of panic. This is what happened. I smelled it. And I'm thinking, oh my god, I'm about to give all of my same tasting notes that I give whenever something is like new wood and it's got some sap in there and that kind of sour funk. But the bread note, I'm not sure what grain that's coming from, but it is like a sourdough bread, more so than just like a sour wood.
I think that may be the barley impact.
Yeah?
Because this is, yeah.
All right, so this is going to be...
I don't know, man. Brian, okay, so Brian, you may or may not want to show this to them, but I'm going to shit on them for a little bit here, just in good nature.
Did he get it from them?
I don't know.
Okay.
But Dogmaster's...
Like, is his girlfriend's dad?
I hope not.
The master distiller?
I hope not. It's the Hawksbees and the Batliners in Columbia, Missouri, and they sort of started this as like, hey, I've always wanted to do something interesting, and distillery sounds cool.
Yeah.
One of them has a chemical engineering degree. One of other one has has his master's for business and MBA.
Yeah.
Here's what I can say about them from reading the website. Right. They are very enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic?
Yeah, but they don't really say much. Oh, dude, stop putting dirty glasses up here. Those are disgusting. Put them back here.
Continue.
No, those are grossing me out. They're grossing me out.
Keep going.
No. Oh, those are, I mean, seriously, it's like you licked the whole thing all the way around.
At this point,
before you let it dry.
I'm not interrupting the story, you're interrupting the story.
No, you are. Good God, man. That's where all of our Glencairns are going.
Hey. Got something for you.
Another Glencairn? Oh, that's a different one.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been looking for that.
Yeah, I've got like 20 of those, but sure. So anyway, I went on their website and to look up information about this whiskey because I wanted to know what's in this whiskey. What did they do? What's their story? How long is it aged? What kind of barrels are they using? Here's what they did on the website. They described how you make whiskey. And it wasn't just under the general website section. It was under the description for this whiskey. So it would be like, if you're like, hey, what kind of car do you have, man? What kind of car is that? And you're like, well, it's got 4 wheels. It has an engine in the front. And it has 2 pedals underneath the steering column. And one pedal, when you push it, it goes. And one pedal, when you push it, it slows down. You're like, oh, it's not very helpful. Thanks for describing to me how to make, oh God. Thanks for describing to me how to make whiskey. On the one part of the website where you're supposed to be actually telling me about what you made. And then everywhere else on the website you go, all it does is just say, hey, these people were good for buddies. And they decided to start this business together.
I have bad news.
There's no reviews. Throw that one away.
I blame Chad.
Yeah, because Chad was fiddling around in there.
And
Be careful reaching your hand in there.
Yeah, I know. I had a master plan. I was going to hoard all of your glasses and then hold them for ransom for a massive amount of whiskey.
Until Chad gave it away.
Chad outed me. So he's no longer in the circle of trust, and he forced my hand. I'm going to have to relinquish the glasses. Now this one...
I feel like this has turned into a housekeeping episode.
This one is tradition. Like twice a year I come and return the glasses. This was from a very special Whiskey Biscuits episode that we'll link up here.
Oh yeah, that's right.
All right, go ahead and drink and give some notes.
I can't drink while you're putting dirty glasses in front of me. I can't do it. It just throws me off. It's disgusting. I can't function.
All right, last one.
That's what they all say.
There we go. You're easily frazzled.
No, it's gross. Imagine if I invited you over to the house for dinner, and when I set you down, and here's your food, and then I piled all the dirty dishes from the last week around your place setting.
I would do that too, just to encourage you to help me clean my dishes. All right, we're 10 minutes into this, and we haven't even tasted the.
We haven't done anything.
I'm
sorry, guys. This is a Rex and Daniel hangout episode, mainly because
I'll tell you why for me.
You know how I normally take notes on this?
I'm not excited about the smell of the whiskey, and I'm not eager to dive in.
And normally I have a page here with all my notes, right?
Sure.
Tell me what my page of notes says here today for this whiskey.
Dogmaster Whiskey, Brian Leshbo. Very enthusiastic.
That's it. I spent 2 hours trying to find information on this whiskey.
Right.
And all I got was people interviewing them for the local newspapers, who the only newspaper writer's approach was, they seem really nice, they're really excited. There's a lot of details, but that's basically all you get.
It's more sweet than this kind of sour wood note that we usually get.
Yeah, the nose is all wrong.
Yeah.
The nose throws me off. The nose makes me anticipate something I'm not going to enjoy.
Like that raw, funky leather.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not so much that. It's just
but
like
the taste is pretty friendly in the middle.
Yeah.
And then the aftertaste, it's still sour.
Sweet and sour wood. Jeffrey E. Patron. Now that I'm officially a whiskey saint, do I have to fight Charlie G. Haig over the plains of Scotland? There can be only one. That's right. Tim Bacon. Hey, Daniel and Rex, love the show. I have a question for you. Since bourbon has to use new oak barrels and Scotch uses used bourbon barrels, what did Scotch distillers use before there was bourbon being made? Was it new barrels or even wine barrels? Thanks a lot for being magnificent.
So here's the thing about Scots. They're thrifty, let's just say. They know how to make a buck and work an angle.
We're just offending people.
I know, right? And actually, if you go back in time, when the Romans conquered the Celts, they discovered them already making barrels. Functioning barrels. So they've been making barrels for forever, right? So they know what they're doing in barrel making. They've got forests. They've got oak. They've got things they can do. However, they discovered it's a lot cheaper to buy used wine barrels from all the wine trade, right? And so for a long time, they were doing used barrels from, wine trade. That was cheaper than making one. And so that almost all whiskey sat in previously used barrels. Then it became an actual law much later that you had to use, or actually not a law, but it became common. It's still not a law that you have to use used oak in Scotland. You can use new oak. But it almost never is because tradition.
Well, tradition, and in our experience, used oak often gives some subtleties and complexity that you just can't get with new oak.
Now, on that note, because it was wine, it affected the whiskey a lot more dramatically, right? So, which would mean some would say some of the Highland whiskeys like Glendronach and these are closer aligned to the older tasting whiskeys aged in wine barrels previously.
Fair enough.
Because they're sherry wine finish, right? So, and it also had to do with trade between Spain but that's a whole other thing. So then here's what happened. Then Americans started making their own barrels, and then the law became, thanks to the Cooper Union, it became a law that whiskey and bourbon in America had to be made with new oak. And
thanks a lot, Mitch.
So they kept having to get rid of these used barrels, get new barrels, and they were even cheaper than the wine barrels. So the Scots were like, we'll have those. So there were two reasons they chose bourbon barrels. One, cheaper again, and two, because it held whiskey previously, it had a less dominant flavor on the Scotch than a wine previously wine-finished whiskey.
Is it just me, or are the Scots just being stumbling cheaply and thriftily into better and better decisions?
Yes.
And it's not,
Absolutely.
how do we make the most amazing whiskey? It's how can we save money? And
Yeah.
it just so happens that
It works out to be really great.
it makes it better.
And then...
If only all of life's decisions worked out like
Yeah,
that.
that was older. But now they're doing, I mean, now they're nerdier than anyone you've ever met about stuff like this. I mean, they
enough.
do chemical analysis on barrels. They buy their own barrels, have them coopered, send them to bourbon distilleries, lease them to bourbon distilleries until they're done with them, bring them back to Scotland, rebuild them, sometimes rechar them, sometimes not. So
So-
now it's a science.
So a happy accident, but then they realized, oh, wait, we stumbled into the amazing
Yeah, and so-
combination of barrels and aging and...
Like always, the easy answer ends up becoming the rule, right? Like, for example, why copper in distill? Because it was malleable, easy to work with, and conducted heat really well. It wasn't for science,
Yeah.
right? It did well at its job.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later they discovered that chemically, copper actually bonds with and removes a lot of the sulfury components while we were distilling. So copper stills do actually improve the distillate.
Oh.
But they didn't know that when they first used it. It was just, this is easy to work with.
Right.
And it conducts heat really well.
Yeah. I honestly, we've talked very little about this.
Because there's nothing to say.
There's not a lot of complexity going on here, man. There's not a lot to pick apart.
And because the nose is so much of what you taste,
Yeah.
I can't get past the nose.
Yeah.
I just smell
The
an
taste-
overly sour sourdough bread mixed with honey and candy.
Yeah, the taste is better than the nose. A really strong, dominant wood note with sweetness in there.
Okay. But thank you, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we're going to get a different whiskey, right?
Getting anything that we don't have in the vault is amazing. Bridget Faraday. Too long didn't read. You put the TLDR version? Okay. Home aging with wood chips. I've noticed a lot of people on Whiskey Tribe, including myself, inquiring about home aging with whiskey with wood chips. Have you guys ever tried this? What is your advice on how to go about this? Do you think these Costco scotches could be improved by doing this? I would like to experiment with pecan wood personally. Which grain, white base, would you suggest for that? Possible Whiskey Biscuits episode? Question mark, question mark, question mark?
Yeah, but we'll need time for that episode because you got to let it sit.
Yeah.
So we could do a whiskey episode where we watch 4 different things age over time.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we'll do once we have the building finished.
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's what I will tell you. Whiskey inside a wood barrel
Ooh.
gets better and better with time because it interacts with the wood in a certain way.
Okay.
Right? That you're never going to get from wood chips or burnt wood spirals.
How is this just a Cameo whiskey?
I know, right? We'll do a real one on it someday, but I just wanted to finish with this because it sounded better. This should prove to everybody that we're not afraid to say mean things about or bad things about a whiskey if we don't like it.
I think that's been established.
Yeah.
I think it's been established.
So anyway, you won't wood
Oh,
chips and
man.
spiral charred wood things.
Yeah.
You're not going to get any of the subtleties from aging with those. Any of them. The only thing you're going to get is the wood flavor. That's it. Now, that could improve something if you like a woody tasting whiskey.
If you love wood as much as Daniel.
You'll get the color really fast, so it'll get darker quicker, but it will taste new, young, burnt, sharp, and woody. That's it. It's not going to get all the vanillas and all of those rich notes that come out of the barrel
you don't
sugars.
get that. You don't get that thick, girthy wood note.
You just can't help yourself, can you?
You
Okay,
always say I
this
can't help
is
myself.
from-
I can obviously help myself. You've said wood 20
I
times.
thought of this because of
I made one
Patron.
joke.
This is Jeffrey Patron's third gift.
Jeffrey Patron's third gift.
Yeah, our next whiskey saint.
Jeffrey Patron.
And yeah.
I don't know. I have to conjure. Hold on. I have to summon. Jeffrey Patron, you magnificent bastard.
Okay, so this is another High West they call American Prairie. It's a blend of 3 straight bourbons. One, an MGP 2-year-old bourbon from Indiana.
Okay.
One, and then the other 2 are 6-year-old whiskey and 13-year-old whiskey.
Right.
Both, I think, from Four Roses.
Okay.
I'm not certain, so don't quote me on that. But I think the older ones are not from MGP.
So, this is called American Prairie Bourbon. a blend of straight bourbon whiskey.
Yeah, that's probably the formula they had to apply for.
Right.
A blend of straight bourbon whiskeys.
And if it wasn't...
Now, we know it's at least 2 years old, or you couldn't call it straight.
Man. Yeah, it's the honey sweetness isn't overbearing. It smells nicely balanced with the wood note and...
Now, why is there no age statement on here?
Maraschino cherries.
If they're calling it straight whiskey? You know the answer to that? This is a nerd answer. That's because this is not straight whiskey. Straight whiskey is required to have an age statement.
But straight bourbon doesn't?
No. Straight bourbon is required to have an age statement.
Okay.
But that's not what this is. Legally, according to the federal government, this is not straight bourbon whiskey. This is a blend of straight bourbon whiskeys, which is its own formula category,
right,
and thus doesn't meet any of the legal requirements for requiring age statements.
You know what's hilarious to me? That, you know, if you dig into it, the reason why there's a tremendous amount of regulation around the naming and the defining of whiskeys is to prevent consumer confusion.
But so often it creates it.
Yes.
And obfuscation.
Yes, and
Always.
so they're doing all this stuff. They make these laws so people don't get confused. But the result is the laws are so inflexible and rigid that just in the way that people communicate and understand the human language creates confusion.
And notice they can't really say what's in it, but it does say go to High West for the details. I love that.
Oh. So
isn't that good?
Apple and honey.
So,
apple and honey, and then the cherry finish.
Yeah, and I get slight banana note in there, in the nose.
Okay.
And I actually get more vanilla than you would have thought from a bourbon. And then it's a little bitter on the aftertaste. Like right now, my aftertaste is slightly tannic.
Oh, there.
I think this is high rye. Because I think the end is all that rye, dry rye.
It doesn't finish for like bananas or vanilla.
No. It finishes like dry rye. Wooden rye.
Like a dry, if it makes sense, a dry maraschino cherry. Right? And unsweetened, like take that cherry, take out the sweetness, and then what you're left with.
And then add rye. This is getting really complicated.
Yeah.
So you take a cherry, you remove the sweetness, you add 3 scotias
Consumer confusion.
of a rye seed, but not the whole rye seed, just a third of it.
Yeah.
You shake it around.
That's really nice. So
That's tasty, isn't it?
what is the percentage? 46?
46. It's the magical number.
This feels like 43. The finish is stronger than the open for me.
Yeah, it does sort of start like this and then just keeps it. You know what it reminds me of?
And it's apples.
You remember those water monkeys? What are those called?
Sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys. You drop them in and then they. Yeah.
For me, it's a light apple and honey on the front end, and then it finishes strong with like that unsweetened maraschino cherry.
It's American Prairie.
Yeah.
The sea monkey of whiskey.
The wood.
Here's to fighting, stealing, and drinking.
You fight, may you fight for a friend.
If you steal, may it steal lover's heart.
You drink,
May you drink with us.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us in the Whiskey Vault. Don't forget to throw in a like, hit that subscribe button on the bottom right, and drop a question or comment down below.